This is a presentation on how to make negatives in English. To make negatives in the present tense, you have to use doesn't or don't plus the simple form of the main verb. Use he, she, or it with doesn't, and use I, we, they, or you with don't. Here are some examples. Number 1, he likes to play soccer. Negative, he doesn't like to play soccer. Number 2, I have a big house. Negative, I don't have a big house. Number 3, they live in Boston. Negative, they don't live in Boston. Number 4, he understands chemistry. Negative, he doesn't understand chemistry. Notice that after each use of doesn't or don't, the main verb is in the simple form. That means don't put s, ing, or ed on the end of the verb. To make past tense negatives, it's a little bit easier because you don't have to choose between two forms. For all subjects, just use didn't plus the simple form of the main verb. Here are some examples. Again, these are negatives in the simple past tense. Number 1, he took the test. Negative, he didn't take the test. Number 2, they had an argument. Negative, they didn't have an argument. Number 3, she hollered at me. Negative, she didn't holler at me. Number 4, I left work early. Negative, I didn't leave work early. Again, notice that after each use of didn't, the main verb is in the simple form. Now we need to talk about some exceptions, because there are some times in English when you cannot use doesn't, don't, or didn't. And this is when you have the verb be. The verb be is special in English. So when you have the verb be in a sentence, never use doesn't, don't, or didn't. Instead, simply put the word not after the form of be. So for example, you have is not, am not, are not, was not, or were not. Here are some examples of negative forms with the verb be. Number 1, she is angry. Negative, she is not angry or isn't angry. Number 2, they are studying right now. Negative, they are not studying right now, or they aren't studying right now. Number 3, Luis was in class yesterday. Negative, Luis was not in class yesterday, or wasn't in class. And number 4, we were arguing. Negative, we were not arguing, or we weren't arguing. You can always use the contractions, or you can use the full form for the negative. Next, let's talk about auxiliaries and how to make the negative form with them. Auxiliaries are function words like can, could, may, might, will, would, or should. To make the negative form with these, it's pretty easy. You just have to add not after the auxiliary. Let's look at some examples. Examples. Number 1, she should buy a new car. Negative, she should not buy a new car, or shouldn't. Number 2, they may come to the party. Negative, they may not come to the party. Number 3, they will win the game. Negative, they will not win the game, or won't win the game. Number 4, he can swim. Negative. He cannot swim or can't swim. Oftentimes, Americans use the contraction forms when they speak. However, may and might are the two auxiliaries that don't usually have a negative form. We prefer to use the full form with may and might. Simple present versus present perfect. This can be very confusing, so hopefully these examples will help you. Sometimes we use have in the simple present tense, and it's just like any other simple present tense verb. You could use like, you could use work, you could use talk. Have is just another verb. So if you look at the example, I have a bird. In this case, have is a main verb. It's the only verb in the sentence, and the sentence is simple present tense. So just follow the rule for the present tense negative. Choose doesn't or don't. Because you have the subject I, you have to choose don't. So the negative is I don't have a bird. Other times when you see the word have, it's actually a part of the present perfect tense or the present perfect continuous tense. So look at these examples. I have lived in San Diego for many years. Have is part of the grammar structure. Have lived. She has been a teacher for a long time. She has been a teacher. They have been studying hard. In these cases, have is not a main verb. It's a helping verb. So consequently, you cannot use doesn't or don't. In the examples that I just showed you, you have to make the negative form in a different way. But don't worry, it's actually much easier than the simple present tense. So number one, I have lived in San Diego for many years. Negative, I have not lived in San Diego for many years. Number two, she has been a teacher for a long time. Negative, she has not been a teacher for a long time. Number three, they have been working hard. Negative, they have not been working hard. Of course, in these cases, you could also use the contraction, I haven't lived in San Diego. She hasn't been a teacher. They haven't been working. Negatives in English can definitely be difficult and confusing, so it's really important to practice. And I think sometimes it's easiest to start first by practicing in writing. So now it's your turn. On your own piece of paper, write the negative forms of the sentences that follow. Then show them to your teacher, and he or she can correct them. On your own paper, write the negative form of these 11 sentences. Try to remember some of the rules that we talked about and think about the tense of each sentence. Good luck!